Last time we didn't have enough money. How much did it cost again? Dude, I hear they're fucking candy now. Oh my god.
You didn't connect with all the continents together. Let me just try the blue one.
Someone's volunteer sticker. No, wrong way, wrong way. That's what's up. Connect the concept. Oh, what is it? It's over there.
I feel for chicken. Only I. Look! I'm just like
Come on, guys.
I'm not gonna go into the bars. Sit down. Okay. I'm nervous. Let's do this.
Okay, so you're going to experience two earthquakes, 1989 and 1906 earthquakes. And it's no sitting down. Thank you so much. Please hold the railing for your safety and hold it tight. If it's scared, you can hug your friends or your chaperones.
okay, fine.
San Francisco, a city built on ancient hills, with geology as diverse as its inhabitants. A city famous for earthquakes, in a state famous for earthquakes. And a fading memory for many San Franciscans. October 17th, 1989, 5:04 in the afternoon. The third game of the World Series had not yet started, but players had started to warm up, and coverage of the game had already begun when the earthquake struck. Shook for 15 seconds. We can't replicate the full force of the quake, its upward and downward motions, but this simulation gives you a sense of what people experienced. 63 people were killed, nearly 4,000 injured, and thousands more left homeless. But the city's most famous earthquake packed a much bigger punch. We can roll back time to imagine the San Francisco of more than 100 years ago. April 18th, 1906, 5:12 in the morning. The city awakens and comes to life. The busiest port city in America has grown up rapidly, with hastily built areas and poor infrastructure. The entire event lasted more than 90 seconds, 3 times longer than your experience. If the damage from the earthquake itself weren't enough, fires started in the wake of the event caused more than 500 city blocks to burn to the ground. More than 3,000 people died in the 1906 earthquake and fire. We don't know when the next earthquake will take place, but we can all make choices to help ensure our safety during such an event. Look around you. What has shifted and moved in the course of recreating the two earthquakes? The books on the shelves, the dishes in the cupboard, the pictures on the wall. All could rattle loose during a
How many are there?
Head toward the next part of our exhibit to learn what you can do to prepare for an earthquake.
Angela, come on. I know.
I don't want to come back.
To thousands of tiny coral animals living together. Pretty amazing. And I actually have a picture here. Diver Andrew, are these related to any other animals we might know?
They are. They are actually related to jellyfish and sea anemones. Pretty much all the ones with the little stinging tentacles.
So what are we actually looking at in this image? What are these?
So what you're looking at there are individual coral polyps. They're very
individual coral animals, and they use those stinging tentacles to sting and grab little bits of food out of the water. They'll move them to their mouths at the center of that little polyp and eat it, just like other animals will. But each coral colony starts as a single coral polyp floating through the water that lands on a nice spot on a rock, and it cements itself to the rock using something called calcium carbonate, which it makes by taking things out of the water. Now, Dr. Andrew, how do we go from one coral polyp to these colonies that we see on the rocks?
Yeah, so coral can actually reproduce two ways. One of them is asexually. They sort of line off from each other. They divide and just make a pop.
So these corals can reproduce by actually just splitting themselves in two and becoming two coral animals. Imagine I'm standing in front of you and I just tear myself in half and become two of me. That's basically what the corals are doing. And it takes a very long time. They'll do this over and over, slowly growing that skeleton about 1 to 2 centimeters per year. So they add onto that skeleton that hard structure that helps keep them safe. They can retreat into and hide from animals that want to eat them. And then over time, those hard coral colonies build up these massive structures like the Great Barrier Reef, a coral reef in Australia. You can actually see from space. So that hard skeleton makes these giant structures possible. And Dr. Andrew, what does the coral reef offer to the rest of the life that's around it?
Yeah, so the coral provides the fish with habitat, so a place for them to hide from predators, for them to reproduce. Some fish actually eat the algae that tends to grow on coral fish. So they'll sort of munch on that, so it gives them a place to feed as well.
So this is kind of like a city underwater. The fish and other animals use the coral reef as shelter to hide and protect themselves. They'll also raise their young here. It offers a food source for some animals. Some big predators will come from miles and miles around to feed on these locations, knowing that there's a lot of food here. And of course a place for algae and other life to grow as well. So this whole city operates because of that strong coral skeleton. But Dr. Andrew, we hear a lot about corals in the news. Are they facing any challenges nowadays out in the world?
Yeah, coral actually is. One of the problems is that coral needs a very specific kind of chemistry in the water. It gets a little bit too acidic, for example. It's really hard to extract calcium carbonate, talking about before.
So as I mentioned, there's 212,000 gallons of water in this exhibit. All of this is mixed in-house, and what's in the water is extremely important because corals are really sensitive to what's in the water. So out in the wild, you find coral reefs around the equator and the tropics, and the water chemistry there, what's in the water, is actually changing a little bit right now through a process called ocean acidification. What we're seeing is that our oceans sponge and absorb things out of the air. And one of those things is carbon dioxide. Now carbon dioxide comes from a lot of places, but most of it comes from when we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, or gasoline. We produce a lot of carbon dioxide. It gets absorbed by our oceans, and then it changes what's in the water. It makes it slightly more acidic, and what that does is when the corals are building those hard shells, is it actually makes the layers of those shells thinner and thinner and thinner the more carbon dioxide gets absorbed. This, of course, is a problem when the entire structure of the coral reef is dependent on those strong coral skeletons, as well as the survival of the corals. And then Dr. Andrew's dive tender is going to get up on the dive deck and is going to get ready to do a broadcast feed, meaning that she's going to toss some food into the water at some specific stations. All right, are you ready? Here we go, let's do our countdown. Fish feed countdown, ready? 3, 2, 1, 0! Well, that was a great feed. I'm so excited. Dr. Andrew, what are we feeding the fish?
Yes, we feed the fish a couple of things. One are kind of like little pressed protein pellets, the same that you put in an aquarium bowl. We also feed them little sheets of dried up algae, which I think are dried up seaweed, I'm sorry, which are the same sort of things that I think you find in the city restaurant.
So we give them some protein pellets, some algae, algae and also some dried seaweed as well. Pretty cool. We get a pretty diverse diet. All right. Well, at this time, I want to give Dr. Andrew another big round of applause for helping us out. Thank you, Dr. Andrew. If you would like a photo or a high five with Dr. Andrew, he's going to hang out for a little bit right here. I'm going to hang out over here to answer any additional questions that we have. But otherwise, I just want to thank you all for joining us for the diet program and have a great rest of your day at the Academy of Sciences. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Watch out there.
Look at the brown one.
I think the one is brown.
Stand behind it. Nam đừng có đợi nha.
Look, it leaves like. Oh, come closer to us.
Nam đừng có đợi.
I think. It's a bug.
like the plants, then you can't notice them so easy because they blend in. That's called camouflage. And so that's why they look like a leaf when they're in with the plant.
You guys all stand there. It seemed like there were more alligators in there.
It's surprising the fish are living right now. It's surprising how the fish are... Dude, the fish are frozen. The fish are frozen. Look, they're swimming. They're not moving around. Some fish are flapping there. Do you know it's alive?
But the show Incoming is all about asteroids and comets and meteors and impacts, and something we do like everybody to keep in mind when they're watching our shows here is that everything you're about to see is based on actual scientific information. So not just pretty pictures and George Takei's lovely voice, it's based on research and data and computer models. So to keep in the spirit of that, to keep our information as up to date as possible, partway through the show you're going to hear my voice cut back in for a few minutes, and I will give you an update on a possible 9th planet in our solar system.
In this hot, dry environment, life is shaped by influences from beyond Earth, by the light and heat of the sun, of course, but also by rare, sometimes catastrophic events. Our journey begins with one such event in the story of life. We're looking at a magnificent scar on Earth's surface, a crater that formed almost 50,000 years ago when a visitor from space collided with our planet. That visitor was an asteroid that vaporized on impact. it explosively, instantaneously formed what we now call Barringer Crater. Asteroids and comets have collided with our planet throughout its history. They have changed the course of life on Earth, and they may have brought the ingredients of life to our planet billions of years ago. An asteroid about 30 meters across created this kilometer-wide crater. When that metallic space traveler struck Earth, it devastated the local environment. Geological activity erases almost all evidence of these impacts, but we have identified nearly 200 impact craters dotting Earth's crust. We study the geology around these craters to determine when the impacts occurred. They range in age from thousands to millions to billions of years old. The age of one crater implicates it in a global calamity that took place 66 million years ago. We can't see it as clearly as the crater where we started our journey, but tiny variations in Earth's gravity around Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula reveal underground concentric rings, the largest nearly 200 kilometers across, Chicxulub Crater. An asteroid about 10 kilometers in diameter caused this damage. The impact ejected debris that fell to Earth for hours, with hot rocks raining down around the globe. The initial burst of energy and the firestorm of secondary impacts superheated Earth's atmosphere. Soot darkened the skies for months, interrupting photosynthesis and cutting off the food supply for innumerable species, including most dinosaurs. We find geological evidence of this event all around Earth in a global layer of dark clay that bears an extraterrestrial chemical imprint. A city-sized visitor from space 66 million years ago changed the story of life. To learn more about these visitors to Earth, we have sent spacecraft to explore asteroids and comets. Let's follow them to this final frontier. Astronauts have only traveled as far as our nearest neighbor in space, the Moon. But our robot explorers have voyaged throughout the solar system. We learned the planets' names early in life: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, along with the giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But we have many other fellow travelers around the sun, including rocky asteroids and icy comets, left over from the formation of the planets. These little guys hold secrets to the origin of our solar system. Cool comets reside far from the sun, but most asteroids orbit between Mars and Jupiter. Let's visit Vesta, an asteroid responsible for many impacts on our planet. We can think of Vesta as a building block that could have combined with others to form a planet, a lingering remnant of our solar system's formation. NASA's Dawn spacecraft orbited the 500-kilometer-wide asteroid for more than a year. Dawn discovered that water may have flowed briefly on Vesta's surface, which fits with the idea that asteroids or comets may have brought water to Earth billions of years ago. Vesta's devastated South Pole shows evidence of a major collision that took place about 1 billion years ago. It excavated quadrillions of tons of rock and debris. Fragments from that collision have made their way to Earth. About 1 in 20 of all meteors that fall to Earth originally came from this one asteroid. Vesta is one of the largest asteroids. Only a few hundred asteroids have diameters greater than 100 kilometers. City-sized asteroids are far more common. If we look for asteroids 10 kilometers in diameter or larger, we expect to find about 10,000 in the asteroid belt. Medium-sized asteroids with diameters greater than 1 kilometer number nearly 1 million. And perhaps hundreds of billions of asteroids are smaller yet. Let's visit one of these smaller ones. Little
also notice it on different fish too. They're darker on the top and lighter on the bottom, and what happens is that when they're in the water and if there's a predator looking up at them, that white belly blends into the sky and that predator can't see them. And also if the predator is above them looking down, that dark back blends into the dark bottom of the ocean. Again, it's hard to